Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Warning, I'm cheating in this video and I'm going to recommend that you become a cheater too. I'm using this Whoops napkin from Ninny's Napkins. Look at these adorable snowmen and look at the size of them. I'm putting this on a 7x10 page, but it will work on a 9x12, especially if you add more than one of these images. So I peeled off the excess plies and I just rough cut around these snowmen. This is going to allow me to play with the composition and make final decisions about what I want to use or where I want to use them. So here's the cheat. I'm using a gel print as an Insta background. This, I'm looking at the focal image that I have. It has that little bit of green in it. It has the turquoise. It even has some of that purple. There's no magenta, but you know me, I'm going to solve that problem. So this jump starts your creative process. It gives you colors, it gives you patterns, and if you're really too much in your head, cheating in this way really works. I cut off a straight edge because I'm going to glue that down across the top, and I like to keep a straight edge where the coils are. And just a reminder, if you haven't watched my channel, I use Canson mixed media paper, but I've taken it off the coil so I get to work flat. And when they're all done, I put it back together. I'm gluing this down with fluid matte medium, getting a good coat underneath, making sure I have good adhesion. And then I'm putting some across the top to seal the paper so it's a non-porous. Now with a lot of gel prints, you end up with these maybe empty spaces, all this white space. Now you can leave that. If you love where it is and it works for your design, you can leave it. But that's not a non-starter. If it doesn't quite fit your page, you can colorize it. Here I'm just picking out the turquoise, the dioxazine purple, and just filling in those white spaces where it is, so no one's the wiser. Now when you're using a gel print as an Insta background, you could leave it like this, and quite honestly there was enough going on here to work, but I wanted to add some magenta. And so I grabbed my DIY foam stamp that I created, and I'll put a link to that video because this is a great way to build your stash with stamps. And I'm just putting on the quinacridone magenta paint with a makeup sponge and stamping all on here. I've chosen the circular ones because we already have some circular in the original gel print. So the gel print points you in directions for what other patterns and go-togethers you have. I'm just stamping that on there, and then I will be giving it a quick dry. As usual, I don't video when I'm drawing each stage, but I do. Now this is the Scattered Branches stamp or stencil from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm putting white acrylic paint through it. I wanted to lighten this up. Remember, this is a snow or a wintry day, so it was pretty dark, so I wanted to lighten it up and add some movement, and this Scattered Branches stencil does both of those. Loving the movement here. So we still have all that pattern and lusciousness from the gel print, plus the extra colors and pattern that we've added to it. So now I want to prepare my focal image. Because my background's dark, I am going to glue this snowman onto just a piece of white copy paper. I keep all the scraps to use just for this purpose. I give it a dry, and then I'm going to fussy cut it out. Now, any parts that are in between, I find the best way to cut there is to use an X-Acto knife. Now, the secret with the X-Acto knife is, one, if I've glued the napkin on there, it needs to be completely dry. Otherwise, it'll rip. Two, don't cheap out and try to use a blade longer than it is. You want a sharp blade. Make your life easier. So there we have my snowman on a sled. Now I made some templates, some curved templates to use on my art journal pages. And I played around. I've got about 7 of them, different curves and things. This allows me, again, to audition it on my page, which I like. I'm visual. I need to see it. So now I'm taking my Stabilo All pencil and drawing what I'm anticipating to be the snow hill that the snowman is sliding down. Now I'm taking black paint on my angle brush and shading out that shape. Now this is using the template or curved template like that, breaks up your background, adds so much to your background. It just adds another design element. So even if I don't go on doing what I do, I'm overpainting some of that middle area and I change it up. Doing this before you glue your focal image gives weight to your focal image as well. And it's a really quick, easy way of doing that. Now at this stage, I have decided to paint out the snow hill white. I want to do a white wash, but I use the Stabilo All pencil, which is activates with water, so I'm wiping it off and then I'm going back in and adding more shading. I didn't want the Stabilo All pencil to muddy my white that I'm going to be painting here. Sometimes we don't know where the page is going or what decisions you're going to make, so you end up doing something twice, but there's really nothing you can do that you can't undo or fix. I want it a little bit more opaque, so I give it not 1 but 2 more coats. You still get the texture that's there from underneath. I'm liking how that looks. Now I'm going to take that turquoise paint and that same scattered branches stencil that I used in the background, and I'm going to stencil in that middle part. I don't want to introduce another pattern. I want the whole page to work together. Then I come back in with the dioxazine purple and do the same thing with the same stencil. I'm overlapping. I've used the same makeup sponge, so some of that isn't exactly purple. It's kind of a blend between the purple and the turquoise. But it all goes together because all those colors are there. Now that black was bothering me, and since I want it to be frosty, I decided I'm now going to overpaint it with white. So basically I'm doing shading with white to get that frosty look. I'm liking that much better. So again, I made a choice earlier on. It didn't work out, so I'm undoing it. And especially if you use materials or color mediums that are permanent, it makes life so much easier. And then I'm adding the frosty white to edge the page. I cut out the sentiment "So Much Fun" and I used 3 different fonts, and then I audition all of them, and I decided to go with this one. I liked how the font matched that scattered branches stencil. I'm gluing down the focal image with matte gel medium because it's thicker paper and I want to make sure I get good adhesion, and I find the gel medium works best. I'm putting the sentiment kind of not in this perfectly straight line to correspond with the stenciling of the scattered branches stenciling. Now I'm going to colorize the focal image. I try using acrylic paints, and you can do that. I just recommend that you water them down. But because I want it more translucent and I have my Inktense blocks, I'm going to use them. I just find it so much easier. But in order to do that, you want to make sure that you've sealed the napkin with a good coat of matte medium, or you could put clear gesso on top. That just makes the color go on a little better and it doesn't bleed into the napkin. So I'm just painting the binoculars a little darker turquoise, the magenta on the hat. Now I'm adding a little bit more, making the sled part a little bit darker using a combination of different browns. The reason I want the colors to be a little bit more vivid in the focal image is because it's a focal image. I want it to stand out. And again, I'm cheating again because I'm just following where the shading is that the artist of the napkin put in. I'm just tweaking the colors. If you're interested in purchasing collage papers, gel prints that are ready to go that you can use as an Insta background, I have a whole selection of them available at Ninny's Napkins. They're called Possibility Packs. I'll put a link in the description box below. Now I'm going to use the black acrylic paint and I'm just shading around the focal image to make it stand out again from the background. This really gives it a bit of a 3D effect. I just keep going around and adding more until it looks like what I want it to look like. Hopefully you can see the difference the shading makes. Adding a little bit more white here to just make that middle section stand out a little bit more. Then I'm adding a little bit of white on top just to brighten it up, the focal image. I'm taking off the tape that keeps everything out of the coiled areas. Grabbing my black Posca pen to outline the sentiments. Then I do some line work around the outside of the page. And I decide to add that same line work, do some sketchiness on the focal image, and I do the same line work on my insert, my curved insert. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you become a cheater too. Bye for now.